Hey, thanks for tuning in. And Rok is back again to do the series on Varga charts, the philosophy, construction, and interpretation of Varga charts. And today, Rok has a new idea of kind of looking at families of Vargas, and probably this will continue for like in the other videos as well. Thanks, Rok, for joining, and it's a pleasure talking to you.
Yeah, thank you, Aswin.
Okay. So I think we should just quickly jump into today's topic.
Yeah, right. So in the previous video, we just did a short introduction into this theme. And I was thinking that maybe we could introduce the Vargas as families, because just recently I've discovered that some of the Vargas are very much interrelated. So they are like a family. They are in certain way, you could say in a harmonic way, they are related and they fit together. First, of course, we will start with the Hora, because it's the first division, which splits a sign into two parts. But we will also look at a very specific, some could say weird, division called the Trimsamsha. Yeah, so maybe I could just, for start, I could read from Brihat Parashara Hora Shastra in chapter 7. There's a description of the Horas. And says that the first half, the first half of odd signs, or from 0 to 15 degrees, is the Hora of the Sun, while the second half, from 16 to 30, is the Hora of the Moon. The reverse is the case for even signs. So that's basically the description of the Hora division, that it splits the sign in two equally large portions, and one portion is ruled by the Sun and another is ruled by the Moon. But it doesn't stay here. Parashar goes to say that these are totally 24, the number of Horas. In these Horas, the signs, Aries, etc., are counted twice. Yeah. So he mentions Aries, etc., like Meshadi, from Aries onwards. But what we find in the commentary of Girish Chancharma is that he assigns one portion of the sign to Leo and another one to Cancer. Yeah, and this is actually, it's not found only in his commentary, but it's actually quite a common way of assigning signs to the Horas, because many people are like confused, because most of the Vargas are made so that the portions in the sign are rashis, like some sort of micro zodiacs. But the Hora, it says that it's ruled by the Sun and the Moon. So what do we do, And some people try to fit this division with the rest of them, and they are assigning signs to the Horas. And now we can maybe look at some diagrams. Is it visible?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So these are the Horas. So we can see that, for example, the first sign, Aries is ruled first by the Moon, and the second Hora is ruled, by the Sun, and the second Hora is ruled by the Moon. And for Taurus, which is an even sign, starts with the rulership of the Moon, and then it's ruled by, the second Hora is ruled by the Sun, and it repeats throughout the zodiac. So actually, in essence, it's actually quite simple because it splits a sign in two halves. And if we think about it, you know, the Rashis are parts of the Kala Purusha. And also they are on a microcosmic level, you know, they represent the parts of our bodies. So yeah, our body is also split in left and right. So in this sense, yeah, you know, it makes sense that we have lunar and solar part of one particular part of the body. So this is the Hora that basically all the classical Indian astrological scriptures, they are basically agreeing on it. Everywhere we will read in Brihajataka, in Saravali, in Paladipika, Yavana Jataka, that these are ruled by the sun and the moon. But Yavana Jataka, although that gives the rulership of the sun and the moon, also attempts to correlate it with the signs. And this is the Hora, where the two portions of the sign become signs.
Yeah, it's sign based and not directly related.
Yeah, right. So, yeah, it's not about planetary rulers like rulership of the luminaries, but it is sign based. And here we have the first Hora is ruled by the sign, is basically the sign itself. And then the second is the 11th sign from it. And this goes for every sign. But it doesn't say that we should reverse it for even signs. So here we have first 11, first 11, first 11, which is interesting because, for example, in Brihat Parashara Hora, Parashara says that we should look to the Hora for wealth. And this is basically, you know, the most common common way of using the Hora, common purpose, to look at the Hora for wealth. And yeah, it makes sense, you know, then to have the first and the 11th Lord ruling the Horas in the sign, doesn't it?
Yeah, for sure. But Parashara doesn't entirely stress the wealth factor on Hora chart as it is. But I also think there are some other hidden things that are yet to be found out in relation to Hora chart. So,
yeah, I believe that. I mean, unfortunately, today people are approaching the Vargas. I mean, I've been doing the same thing through software. You know, okay, you can read it in some text, but then you just basically use the software, and the way the software has things configured, that's what you use, and you don't really think very much about it. So yeah, we have all kinds of approaches to assigning signs to the Horas. We saw that one way is a very common way that we see is by assigning the two parts to Leo, to the sign of Leo and Cancer, and then we have this approach with the first and the 11th sign. So what can I say? You know. We would say that, okay, one is right, another one is wrong. I don't know, maybe yes, maybe no, but maybe they are just created for different purposes.
Yeah, that's what I think. I think we have not yet found the actual interpretative principle behind not just Hora chart, but almost all the divisional charts. I think we gave a decent explanation about our ideologies or your ideologies in the first introductory video. So
yeah, and this is actually the reason why I went to draw all these diagrams, because when you have things represented visually, there's much easier to see, some rationale behind it. And when you have things in circle, you see the oppositions and various geometrical patterns being formed. And that can tell us a lot of things, So we can contemplate and figure out what this division is all about. So this is what I've been doing for the past few months. And I've been writing a series of articles on the divisions, which I'm publishing on my web page, which is Rok Koritnik Astrologer.com. So anyone can go there and read the articles. They're full of such diagrams and so on. And yeah, I mean, the Hora is the first division, but yet already here we have so many different opinions, Some say, no, only sun and moon, no signs. Some say, okay, we will assign signs to it. And Parashara, actually, in the text, as we've seen, also says to assign signs. But he says, from Aries onwards, which, in my opinion, is like this. Because if we would just repeat the order of the signs 2 times, in the circle, we would break the sequence of the Hora, which reverses for even signs. So if we go by natural order of the signs from Aries to Pisces, we should pay attention and make sure that we reverse the order in even signs. So this, according to my research and my thinking, is the type of Hora with the signs that Parashara instructs us to create. Because we have natural order, so see Aries, Taurus, but then we don't start with Gemini, but we basically start with Gemini from reverse.
Yeah, so it's Cancer and Gemini. Yeah. So again, Leo, Virgo, and then Virgo, Libra.
Yeah, but basically, by the order of the Horas, we would go Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, Leo, Virgo, Libra, Scorpio. So it's natural order, but the natural order reverses for even signs. And actually, there are some astrologers. I have read that there was one astrologer called Krishna Mishra, who was of opinion that all the Vargas should be reversed for even signs.
Okay.
Because after all, the first instruction we have when we read about the Hora. So there's an instruction for the Hora, reverse for even signs. And actually, we use this approach in various techniques, not only in the Vargas, that things reverse for even signs, especially in Gemini astrology. So yeah, it could make sense. Why not? But so far I still haven't tested this because I currently lack the software that would do it, and do it all by hand on, say, 20 charts is a little bit too time consuming. So
yeah, sure.
Yeah, but it might be a valid idea. Yeah, you want to add something?
No, I thought we could put a little bit of something on the interpretation part.
Sure, yeah. Yeah, I mean, so far I've been only using this type of Hora, just sun and moon. And I'm not the only one who thinks like this, that it basically shows the planet placed in these Horas. For example, if we take the 2nd or 11th Lord, if we stick a little bit to, like the wealth, then we could see if this planet that rules the 11th house, for example, falls in Moon's Hora, it would mean that that wealth, success, the fruits of actions really come effortlessly, in a very natural way. All the good stuff in life. But if it falls in the Sun's Hora, that it means that, okay, it has a male energy to it. So in regards to this, so it means that the person will create wealth through his own efforts. So that's basically, how one would read, how one would interpret the placement in the Horas. Just to make, the way the planet functions more feminine or more masculine, more like initiative or more receptive.
The sun's Hora might indicate some flamboyance, while moon's Hora can indicate the classic moon kind of stuff like nourishment based upon the planet and the sign in which the particular planetary body is placed.
Yeah, but it's the Hora is about splitting in half, and basically about oppositions, because we see there are many oppositions. It's all about oppositions. And here it's like, we have one, the sun, the pure consciousness that projects itself, like, for example, in Advaita, Brahman uses his Avarana Shakti, the projecting power, and basically steps out of itself and reflects. So this is it. It's more like a receptive, reflective principle, the moon, and more like initiative principle of the sun.
I think that's pretty much in line with the astronomical factor regarding the sun and the moon. So that kind of ties in very well with the astrological stuff that we are currently presenting.
Yeah, and then we have another division which is quite enigmatic, and this is the Trimsamsha. Many people say Trimsamsha is the 30, but that's not what I see when I read the classical texts. It's always said that the Trimsamshas are ruled by the 5 non-luminaries. You could say the 5 elementary grahas. The grahas that represent the 5 elements. It's division in 5, not in 30. That's probably they get this idea from 3 in Trimsamsha, so somehow many astrologers are creating a divisional chart of 30 portions. But that's, to my understanding, that's not the classical way to do it. The classical way is this. We have the rulership of the 5 non-luminaries, which of course reverses for even signs. That's the instruction. And each rule a different number of degrees. If I remember correctly, it's 5, 5, 5, 5, 7, 6, 5. Yeah. So we have in a male sign, in an odd sign, we have the rulership of Mars, Saturn, Jupiter, Mercury, and Venus. And we see that in every sign, Jupiter is in the middle, right? And then on each side of Jupiter, we have another 2 elementary grahas. So on his left side, we have Mars and Saturn, which are usually connected to elements of fire and air, the 2 male elements. And then on the right side, we have 2 female elements, Mercury for earth and Venus for water. And it reverses for even signs. So these are our Trimsamshas. Actually, it's quite simple.
Yeah, this is probably the Indian equivalent to Hellenistic bounds. But if you look at it historically, this looks like an attempt by the Indians to kind of perfect or kind of give a uniformity to what is actually called as bounds. But still, we are not sure about the historical transmission, so we cannot comment.
Yeah, yes. I mean, I used to believe this, that, these are probably, like more orderly form or simplified form of the bounds. But what they share with them is that there are 5 portions and they are ruled by the non-luminaries. But I think that the purpose of the Trimsamshas is a bit different than the purpose of the bounds. Especially because they are meant to work with the Hora. So these are the Trimsamshas and the Horas together. So we've seen that they are reversed for even signs, just like the Horas. And if we see the split of the sign with the Horas, always falls in the Trimsamsha of Jupiter. Jupiter is ether, and ether is a neuter, it's not neither male, neither female. So Jupiter falls in the middle, a little bit in the sun's Hora, a little bit in the moon's Hora. But in the sun's Hora, we always have the 2 male elements, fire and air. And in the moon's Horas, we always have 2 female elements, water and earth. So the person who designed these 2 divisions surely knew what he was doing,
Yeah, for sure.
they are fitting each other. They are created for each other. And these 2 are completely different from all the rest because they are ruled by planets. It's not signs. So I'm wondering, I would really like to understand, the purpose of why different astrologers in the past have tried to assign various signs to the Horas. But when I look at this diagram and how they fit together with the Trimsamshas, everything kind of, explains itself, because the Horas are not ruled by the elementary planets and the Trimsamshas are not ruled by the lights. So we have, a perfect match here.
Yeah,
everything is correlated nicely. So, for example, unfortunately, the instructions how to use the Trimsamshas are incredibly scarce. Mostly, we just get some ideas from female horoscopy, from reading the horoscopes of females. And basically, they just look at in which Trimsamsha the ascendant falls, and then they delineate what kind of nature the wife, the spouse will have. But in Yavana Jataka, we get a little bit more. We get the instructions to look at the Dwadasamsha placements in the Trimsamshas, which is really the same technique we find in Hellenistic astrology with, the 12 parts, the Decatemoria, which is equivalent to Dwadasamsha. How they are judged against the bounds. So we calculate the Dwadasamsha exactly to a degree and put it back in the Rashi chart and see in which Trimsamsha it falls in. But that's about it. They don't give any interpretive ideas, So it's just this technique is there, but nothing further.
I think Parashara gives a kind of clue in terms of how to use, because deities have been assigned for each part of the division, and we see that the deities presiding over the Trimsamsha respectively are Agni, Vayu, Indra, Kubera, and Varuna. And in case of odd signs, and this same kind of order should be reversed when we are for the events. So if we look at the classical texts of Rig Veda, we will have the clear message or information about Agni, Vayu, Indra, Kubera, and Varuna, and I think that can, I think understanding these five kind of things can act as a like road to discovery of how to interpret the Trimsamsha chart. So I think that will be, I think that is the greatest clue, because if you look at historical texts, people have written only verses and they are given clues with a few words. So I think, so Parashara has kind of given a big clue to us in terms of how to interpret with these five things, and I think we should use our general astrological sense to come up with interpretations based upon the planet that is placed in Agni or Vayu or so on.
And also, the Trimsamsha is considered also to be the Varga scene for ill effects, like for diseases.
Yeah.
And it makes sense, because if, for example, you have, say, you have Mars, fire, and it's placed in the watery Trimsamsha, sure,
yeah,
it's gonna have problems, so Agni-related diseases.
Sure. Varun, yes. Agni and Varun.
Due to weak Agni. I mean, not excess fire.
I think that makes sense. So I think you just gave an answer with the clue that Parashara has given us. So maybe, so if Mars is placed in Varun's area of Trimsamsha, I think something like what you said is very much applicable in that particular scenario. So yeah, I think there is a lot of things that we can work with.
Yeah, I mean, when I look at, these are two of the most neglected divisions, I have to say. Rarely you find any discussion or articles or somebody trying, to illustrate how to interpret these Vargas. But I see, so many potential uses, and to me they seem very important, because after all, we have the sun and the moon. Especially, it would be also important to see the sun and the moon as two aspects of consciousness, where they fall in the Trimsamshas, because then we can also find through which element, or if we go deeper, through which of the senses the consciousness is experiencing the world the most.
Yeah, for sure. So I think there is a lot to work with, and there is a lot to research when it comes to divisional charts. And as you said, apart from Hora and Trimsamsha, I think the most widely used is Navamsha, and Dashamsha comes
of course.
next. Or I don't think people kind of use any other Vargas as it is. So
maybe Saptamsha.
Yeah, Saptamsha, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure if people use Saptamsha, but still, yeah, maybe. So, but I think overall, divisional charts are not entirely used or utilized as much as it should be. So, yes.
Yeah, because the fact is that we are not entirely clear about this, about how to use them, about their construction. It's quite a big enigma, really, because people are doing all kinds of things with the Vargas, and some things are valid and are possible to do, but as we will see, there are different families of Vargas, and if we just look at these two, you cannot construct a Varga chart from this. It's just the way to use it is just to see the degrees and see the ruler, and that's it. And you can have them like this. If you have a round chart, you can have them around the circle, which is very practical. or as simply a list, a table of Trimsamshas and Horas, and that's it. You cannot construct any kind of chart out of this.
Sure. So, do you have any final thoughts as it is?
Maybe just as addition to and kind of introduction to the next episodes. Today we've seen one family of Vargas. So Hora and the Trimsamsha, they are made to work together. And in the next episode, we will look at what I call the Dvadasamsha family. And we will see 4 Vargas and how they relate to each other, and they are designed to work together.
No.
And then later we will look at another family of Vargas, which is Parivriti family, the ones that go with the natural order of the signs, without any specific rule for each Varga. And there we will find the Saptamsha and the Navamsha, which are Parivriti Vargas or harmonic Vargas. So we will see that today there is a lot of mixing of apples and oranges. Unfortunately, we are just sticking all kinds of Vargas together and use them in the same way. No, some, as far as I can tell, some Vargas can be used as Varga charts, can be drawn into a chart and read as a chart, but some cannot. And we will look at all of this. And today we've seen that the Hora and the Trimsamsha, that they cannot be read as a chart, but only as specific portions of signs.
Great. So I think this kind of brings us to the end of this session. And I think this series is shaping up very well with the new idea that you brought in terms of using the Varga family as it is. So, So I think we'll just end it here, and I'm really looking forward to the next session because you already posted the image on your Facebook, and it is one of the most amazing works.
Yeah, apparently it's quite attractive.
Yeah, so it also makes a lot of sense. So I think we'll explore how and where it makes sense in terms of understanding the construction of divisional charts and also the usage of divisional charts. So thanks, Rok, for joining, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you, Aswin.